Good morning. My name is Scott Jones. I am the editor of the Martian Migraine Press anthology for 2016, CTHULHUSATTVA, Tales of the Black Gnosis. And I'm very happy to be joined here this morning by Konstantine Paradias, who's joining us from Athens, Greece. He's one of the authors of a story in CTHULHUSATTVA. The story is called Emperor Eternal. And Constantine, when I first read your story, I was immediately struck by it, the sort of grisly energy that you brought to it. It has a very sort of old style, weird tales, pulpy feel to it. It's quite gruesome, and I was really intrigued by your main character, who is the whole thing is set in China, and your main character is sort of what I took to be a court sorcerer of some sort, a wuxi. Can you tell us something about him?
Yeah, well, the idea is that back then, in that time, the court sorcerer held a considerable position because he was the one that was aligned with the mystic. He was the one that was supposed to represent, the nitty-gritty part of the celestial bureaucracy, because the idea of, the Chinese hierarchy back then was that there was a bureaucracy that went all the way from the heavens and all the way down to earth. And the court sorcerer was the last person between, the people, the masses, and the rest of the court. He was, the in-between. And the idea of the wuxi, who was used in government, was both as a soothsayer, as a doctor, and as an occasional purveyor of a number of hexes. He would work with, herbs. He would work with all the visceral, more prehistoric idea of magic, where he'd have, to get his hands dirty, like elbow deep in the muck, to actually get things done, to actually, do the readings and everything, because, the I Ching is all well and good, but, sometimes you just have to get into the goat guts to get things done. and the wuxi, that story coincides with the wuxi tradition back then in China, before the Mongol invasion, because the idea I wanted to present him was that he uses this prehistoric magic, but he goes all the way into impossible excesses, all the way from the beginning of the story to the end, because he could afford to. Because that was the time when the Qing dynasty was able to afford, going on excesses. When the eunuchs were in command, the nobles didn't give a damn. They would just get themselves wasted on opium and waste their money on, each having a herd of concubines falling after them. The emperor was just a puppet, and everyone else that controlled the fanfare, the eunuchs, the court sorcerers, the sycophants, and everyone else actually held the true power and just wasted away, all the jade and all the gold in Chinese empire. And I was thinking, okay, so you have this one guy who's able to contact the mythos, and he's got pretty much a blank check. Okay, he can use. They tell him just go spend everything. Yeah, he's got just a blank check. They tell him just get things done. Just stop the Mongols, do something, do magic. And I was going, with this idea in the beginning, like you have this this kind of idea of primitive sorcery with a blank check. He can do anything he wants. He can waste away as many people as he wants, as long as he can contact the old ones and get results. So I was thinking the beginning with this. I can't hear you. You broke up.
Sorry, he does get results.
Yeah, he actually does get results, because he just pulls all the stops, which is kind of the idea I had when I started reading mythos fiction. I actually didn't start with Lovecraft. I started with Clark Ashton Smith, because he was the one guy you could always find, in every dime store, fantasy anthology here in Greece. It was like Clark Ashton Smith, and Clark Ashton Smith. You know how his stories are, right? You have this sorcerer who's powerful, and he just, goes up on a tower that you don't know how long it is, and he ends up in a black space, and you don't know where the hell that is, and just, contacts some elder god. The elder god goes, okay, I don't even care, and he sends his mighty, obsidian steeds, and they like trample the city just because the wizard's pissed off. And I remember thinking, this is way too easy. I was thinking, this is way too easy. I mean, I don't care how awesome he is. I mean, he has to actually, have to do something. He has to plan it out. There has to be a budget. I mean, he has to like work on it. He just can't make it happen. And I was thinking, later when I read the Call of Cthulhu RPG, I started running it. I remember seeing all these, ridiculous, necessary boxes you had to tick just to contact an old one. And I was thinking, okay, that's good, but for the big guys, that's too little. You need something to be more excessive to contact them. So I'm thinking at some point I have the chance and I say, okay, I'm going to do a story with a guy who has a carte blanche to do whatever the hell he needs to contact and bind the Alaphatep. I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to pull all the stops. I'm going to have use absolutely everything. Maze of broken mirrors, go.
Yeah.
Blinded eunuchs, go. Slave children, go. Especially bred concubines, go. Just everything, just go. Just take it.
It is the,
I imagine
the first act of your story is just one thing on top of the other.
The idea is, I imagined
Go ahead.
No. I imagined, but I went back before I started. The idea was that the wuxi would follow, some wuxi tradition, and then he'd go just to make sure, I'll just waste a little bit more money. I'll do these excessive things, just to be on the safe side.
Right.
And I just piled on some things.
Well, it has a wonderful effect. I mean, it's as I said, it's grisly, and one thing piles on top of the other. But I think what made me choose it for CTHULHUSATTVA, which is of course the theme of our anthology this year, was the more spiritual aspects of the mythos. And I think what's interesting about your character, even with all the excesses that he piles on in order to perform his magic, he comes to a realization of what could have been. He's one of the few. I'm not putting any spoilers for readers of CTHULHUSATTVA here, but in your story, Emperor Eternal, he basically gets that thing that he wished for, and in the process realizes he could have wished for more. Right. And I think that's as far as the themes I'm using of the Black Gnosis and using mythos entities as a source of enlightenment. I thought it was an excellent addition, sort of a how not to do it. I mean, he does it very, very well. He has some spectacular success, but at the same time, he could have pushed even further for his own ends. Did that ending come naturally to you? Did you have this? Go ahead.
Yeah, no. Again, the idea of the sorcerer going and asking for more. Okay, this one doesn't harken back so much to Clark Ashton Smith. This one goes further back for me. This one goes back to the time when I first watched Aladdin. The Disney, the Disney version, where in the Greek dub, there's one point where Aladdin turns to Jafar and he goes, "So wait, I could have gotten more." No, he goes "So you need this?" "Yes." "So I can ask for more?" And Jafar goes "No, just go, just leave, just get out of my sight." And I was always thinking, okay, so he can't take it back. He can ask for more. He knows he's in a position of power, but he can't take it more. I'm thinking, okay, what if he was in a position of power? But what if there was something he could do? Of course, he would be selfish bastard about it. One second.
No problem.
Sorry, halfway emergency phone call. Anyway, so I was thinking that the idea is that, okay, so the guy gets enlightenment, he gets, arcane power, he gets, unlimited everything. And then he realizes he hasn't asked for anything more. And he can ask for more things from, one second, sorry. The wife went in, she didn't realize she was in microphone range. So, yeah, he suddenly, he realizes that disadvantage. All he asked for was this specific payment, and he couldn't do anything else. And I'm thinking, okay, so he has the power to do something else. How selfish can he possibly be? How far can he go with this? And most importantly, how can I make it look as if he's the good guy, really? Because, you know, you're the first person who actually told me that you would have asked for more, and you've realized this, because Emperor Eternal actually went through, and I'm not kidding, 12 beta readers.
No kidding.
Okay.
Nice.
Every single one of them, yeah, every single one of them, with the exception of one guy who didn't read all the way through because, you know, for some personal reasons he forgot. They all thought that the Wuxi was a super good guy. He was a really good guy because in the end he saw the error of his ways and he used his, you know, his magical occult powers, you know, to save the world and stop me a lot of them. And it was like, everybody's missing the point. I'm thinking, you know, will anyone ever get it? The idea is that, you know, you get enlightenment, but like, you know, in the Buddhist teaching us and everything, getting enlightened doesn't mean that you're a good person. It doesn't mean, you know, that something happens and you're a good person. You just get better at doing whatever the heck it is you were doing. If you're an enlightened bastard, you'll just be, you know, the best at being a bastard. If you're an enlightened good person, you'll be the best at being a good person, and so on and so forth.
True enough,
that's the idea.
True enough. True enough. So, what other projects are you working on? I was going through your bio, and aren't you involved with? Have you had some stories published in heavy metal? Is that correct?
Well, I had one story published in Heavy Metal magazine, the online segment, which was called Shamgar Shah, the Quasi-Emperor, which was, well, the idea was that I only want to get published in heavy metal.
Yeah.
Right? We'd only get it 2 times in Greece. It's got like this, you know, legendary appeal and everything. And I remember being a kid and going like, I'm going to get published. And I remember before I wrote that particular story, I had bought like 3 or 4 issues, you know, off a newsstand, which is really hard to do here, by the way.
No kidding.
Unless you've got a subscription, you're not getting it here.
Mm.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to do it here. And I read through them and I was like, okay, what kind of story would they want? And I just went like, okay, so I'm going to go with something that's sci-fi. I'm going to go full on Flash Gordon because it's like the smartest, dumbest movie ever made. And then I'm just going to binge. Then I'm just going to, you know, binge listen to Italian power metal and then just write 3,500 words out of it and see what happens. And what I ended up with was a story called Shamgar Shah and the Quasi-Emperor, which is the first story at the end, you know, of a season. The idea is I wanted to go with, you know, the last Earthman, playing the role of Flash Gordon, you know, the evil alien emperor equivalent, and like showing the entire season's worth, you know, in one big climactic battle scene where you get all the, you know, all the necessary things, all the necessary, you know, plot twists and everything. And thankfully they liked it. It was metal enough.
Nice.
I think I wrote it to the tune of Rhapsody's, which one was it? Not the Emerald Sword, Holy Thunder Force. If you actually listen to it, yeah, it's the campiest metal song ever written.
Beauty.
In my opinion, it's like the campiest. Yeah, I listened to it for the first time when I was 14. I still get the shivers, man.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
These things show. These things. It's good to have process. These things show for sure.
I don't usually get process in most of my stories, but I've been trying to do this, you know, consistently lately, and it's working. So I'm gonna keep doing this. Lately, other project I'm involved in. Well, at the moment, I'm working with 2 other artists. They are situated in Sweden on a project called Float, which the idea is that it's a Cthulhu mythos murder mystery that expands on an older idea I worked on for an anthology. It's based on the idea of the first landing. The first landing, when I worked on it, is based on, works like this. So imagine R'lyeh rises out of the waters, right? But instead of getting Cthulhu, you get like scores of Deep One immigrants who have been living in R'lyeh. They have run out of space, they've run out of money, they've run out of resources, and they head for land, right? So you have to put them up. They exchange their technology and their occult knowledge for, you know, 3 squares a day and a roof over their heads.
Okay.
With a chance to live, you know, in the coast of the surface people. And the idea of Float is that 5 years after first landing, you get one detective who's stuck in Innsmouth on crap duty because, you know, he poked his nose too far into something he shouldn't. And he finds out that there might be the first deep one, the first human murdered by a deep one ever. And he tries to get into it. And, you know, lots of other stuff happen.
Sounds great, man.
And yeah, we're working on it at the moment. And another thing I'm working on at the moment, actually, I've been staying behind. I've been kind of behind, come to think of it. I've only got this one project lately. You know, what with my marriage and, you know, moving and everything.
Life in general? Life in general? No, I feel you.
Yeah, life gets in the way. I mean, before I was getting married, I had everything planned. I was working on a comic book. I was, you know, trying to do a video game, you know,
Right.
but I couldn't afford a coder. So I was like, okay, whatever, I'll just write the script. And it just, you know, kept going and going and going and going. Then I was thinking, and then, you know, life happened,
Yeah.
which is the worst.
Well, you know, I can tell you honestly, as someone who's been there, it does get better, Konstantine. You will find the time.
So
you will find the time
like
again.
Is it like after the kids or like before?
There's a brief period right after kids are born where they don't do anything, and you've got a good chunk of creative time there. And, you know, as they get a little more active, your creative time drops off. But then as they get more independent, your creative time rises. And I find myself, I'm on that upswing now. So it will come. It will come. Konstantine, it's been great to have you on. I'm really excited to present Emperor Eternal to folks in the pages of CTHULHUSATTVA, Tales of the Black Gnosis. It's a great story. I hope everyone checks it out.
It's a great anthology.
Yeah. Well, thanks for saying so. And not just because you're in it. You know, we've got 15 tales in there that you know, run the gamut from, you know, as I say, your Clark Ashton Smithian, you know, full-on gore fest. There has been some talk that folks are like, oh, it's going to be dry tales of enlightenment, and, you know, within, you know, airy spheres of intellectual. No, not always. There are a few of those, but of course, then we have yeah. Then we have Emperor Eternal, which is pretty much balls to the wall, and we love it, and I love it.
It's the only way to go.
People are gonna love it.
Okay. Well, I'm really glad you had me. And if I might chill a bit for a second, might I suggest that any watchers try Resonator, the other anthology by Martian Migraine Press.
That's right.
It's not exactly hot off the presses, but it's about, you know, Mythos technology, so you're not losing really anything. So if you want to see something new, you might as well go ahead.
Thanks, man. We'll throw up a link.
Yay!
All right, you have a great rest of your day, Konstantine, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Thanks, man. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
See ya.